Thank you for joining us for the webinar on future trends for rewards and recognition and employee engagement in partnership with Gift XOXO. I am Ritu from People Matters, and before taking you through the agenda for this session, let me give you a brief about the topic today. The concepts of work, reward and recognition have changed significantly over the last 2 decades. Today's workforce is global and more diverse, not just from demographic perspective, but also by behavioral and psychographic segmentation. Organizations have to perform a tricky balancing act to attract, retain, and engage employees as business grows through different phases. Hence, it's business imperative to make best efforts to start foreseeing some of the emerging changes and to prepare better. In this webinar session, we'll discuss the following points: multiple generations, where we'll talk about engaging different employee segments; multiple cultures or countries, where we'll talk about managing a global workforce; multiple business imperatives, where we'll be covering about delivering rewards not just to business needs. We'll also be covering about different phases of business growth, cost of rewards, and movement from total rewards to total value proposition. We're also talking about multiple stakeholders, and we'll have a look on stakeholders' view, public activism, and fair pay in rewards. Let me now introduce you to the speakers for this webinar. We are privileged to have with us Sanchayan Paul, Head of Rewards, Vodafone India. Sanchayan is currently the National Head of Rewards for Organization Effectiveness and is in the top HR leadership team at Vodafone India. In his current role, he provides leadership to a community of around 30 rewards OE and operational professionals across business units. He is responsible for engaging with board and CXO to align on organization design and structure, rewards philosophy, approach to drive a performance culture and organization policies. We are also privileged to have Kushal Agrawal, co-founder at Gift XOXO. Kushal is an adventure enthusiast. He loves exploring new places and meeting new people. He has traveled 25 plus countries and has represented India in a few long adventure formats. Gift XOXO is a reflection of his passion. It's all about making unique experiences available for everyone to consume. Our partner for today's webinar session is Gift XOXO. It is an ISO certified organization working with 700 plus corporate clients across globe, providing them automated solutions in their total rewards program for the appreciation management, incentive management, rewards and recognition and engagement. This SAS platform is equipped with 500 plus brand vouchers and 4,000 plus curated experiences spreading across 6 categories. We have saved a lot of time for you to ask questions at the end of the webinar session. And those who are watching the live webinar, you can submit your questions anytime during the presentation through the Q&A section, and we'll try to respond as many questions as time allows. So without any further delay, I would like to hand over it to Sanchayan and Kushal further. Over to you.
Hi, and good morning, everybody. I guess I'm audible to all of you. It's fantastic to see more and more people kind of joining in as I see the number of attendees increasing. And thank you so much for giving the quick introduction on the subject and each of the speakers today. Extremely delighted and look forward to the Q&A from all of you, and also look forward to hearing from Kushal. I'll move on and now kind of straight start deep diving into the core subject of the day. This is a quick look at what we will cover during the next 20-25 minutes. a very broad look at what are the emerging macroeconomic and social trends, because without understanding cultural, social, and economic trends, it is very, very difficult and could be baseless to project emerging trends in rewards and recognition. As was shared earlier, we will look into what are the imperatives of rewards and recognition. What are the probable trends, and we will do a bit of crystal gazing and also try to prepare ourselves in trying to manage rewards across generations, across a global workforce that is multicultural, works from different locations. Try to understand what are the different business imperatives and how as rewards and business professionals will respond to that. We will also look at organizations at different phases of growth, and while I will very briefly touch upon those phases, you will also have Kushal coming in at the end and giving you a perspective of how do startups manage rewards and recognition. We will then quickly look at some very interesting emerging topics around activist shareholders, around public activism on pay, executive compensation, and how do they look at aspects like fair pay, and what actually is fair pay. Could pay actually be fair in that sense? Then we'll close the session with a short brief on what's Vodafone business, what are we doing, and how are we responding to that from a rewards and recognition and employee engagement point of view. And we'll close the session with looking at probably 8 or 9 top trends that we would have kind of experienced during the session. But before I go into this, I must tell you that anything that we say today is only from a perspective of today's lens. What will happen tomorrow in this world of volatility and uncertainty is anybody's guess. The only thing that is really predictable is the fact that we'll all be surprised and probably left confounded even after trying to do all this research and study. But we can't let it be like that. We need to predict and we need to prepare. So fundamentally, what's really happening? And as all of you know, rewards and recognition is really impacted by 3 core aspects: the concept of work, the concept of time, and the concept of wealth or assets that employees want to build for themselves. And this whole technological revolution around the internet, around having a device which is very individual and in your hand, and the aspect of devices talking to each other, which is the Internet of Things, is really, really impacting how workplaces in the future will look at. And we are really staring at people who are now saying that I would like to work from anywhere and anytime. And how does it matter to you if I'm able to deliver the results that you want? So you will have more and more consultants, more contractual workers who will work on a contingent basis, who will deliver the work for you, but will probably deliver it to you from any place, anytime. What's also changing is this whole thing about the shared economy. Currently and in the past, we really looked at building assets. Most of our dreams were to have a house of our own, and probably 2 houses of our own for some of us, and a nice big car that we wanted to own. The millennials, and they say that by 2025, 75% of the global workforce will be millennials, are really now looking at sharing assets and not owning them. So they're renting houses, they're renting cars, and nobody wants to now possess a car. They want to use Uber or Ola. They're no longer looking at 5-star hotels to stay in. They're looking at Airbnb. They're no longer looking at purchasing TVs because they can see Netflix on their app or on their mobile. So it's all about shared economy. It's all about here and now. It's all about on the device. And that kind of creates interesting challenges for all HR professionals. How do you really handle this growing trend? I spoke to you about demographic shift, and this technology combined with this demographic shift is really shaping the world economy. You would see an interesting acronym called FANG there, F-A-N-G. What is F-A-N-G? F-A-N-G is basically Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. And if you were to combine the net growth rate of these three companies, and if you thought that they were countries in themselves, they're today growing at a positive 250%. And versus their positive 250%, if you look at the five countries, which is BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, they're actually degrowing at 30%. So it's the internet share-driven economy that's really driving. And all of you do experience e-commerce in your everyday life. So what's happening? With more e-commerce, people are consuming more. And it's becoming a consumption-led economy. When it is a consumption-led economy, wages become very critical because increase in wages fuel the consumption. Consumption leads to more inflation. More inflation would mean you need to provision for higher wages to meet inflation. So it's a very interesting situation. And at the same point in time, you have a certain part of your workforce which is aging. And they're aging gracefully because you have certain kind of medical facilities today. So while your younger workforce coming in, you have a certain workforce which is about to retire or about to move out of the workforce. And how do you kind of deal with them? How do you manage them? What are the implications? For example, cost of healthcare will increase. There would be significant focus on pension funds and how do you build a pension society. And all of you have heard about the national pension system that the government has introduced. So focus on healthcare, focus on pension funds for the aging population. So what's the summary of these changes happening? Basically, regulation, demographics, technology, and emerging social norms is really, really creating a very interesting landscape for all of us in HR, and especially those in rewards and recognition professions. Let's look at each of the summaries in a little bit of more detail. And all of you are pretty familiar with what is Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. Gen Z is the set of population which is just entering. They're just about to enter the workforce. They're probably in the last year in college, or they've just entered with about 1 or 2 years of experience. Baby boomers are the folks which are, some of them may be about to leave your workforce because they're about to retire. Baby boomers were the guys who believed in hard work, they were achievement-oriented, driven. For them, recognition was about being recognized in small teams. And money was the only thing which motivated. Cash was the key for them. And as Gen X came in, they kind of carried on with similar trends. Only thing is they wanted better benefits. They started asking for better work-life balance. They wanted more autonomy to do things, be flexible about stuff. They wanted more investment in their personal self. And then you have the Gen Y, or the millennials who entered the workforce. And that's a big chunk in most of our organizations. For example, in Vodafone, about 40 to 50% of the new workforce that enters are millennials, are people from colleges, big and small. And for them, pay is just not about take-home. It's about competitive pay. It's about peer comparison. It's about the right benchmarks. Recognition for them is a need to be done in a more public forum, more frequently, with more fun, and with less formality. They want a more free-flowing digital information. They want access to all the information. Information is no longer seen as a privilege of a few. And then you have the Gen Z entering the workforce, who want to be recognized socially, not just publicly within the company, but probably on Facebook and on Twitter, on the stuff that they do. They're saying we will decide what we want. So there's more individualization. And they're saying, can we exchange benefits? For example, they're saying, if I have a set of leaves and I'm not utilizing them, can I give those leaves to somebody else who needs them? And some organizations are also doing it. In fact, I recently heard Tata Motors does it. So if somebody falls sick, you can donate a part of your leaves to the person. So it's becoming more peer, it's becoming more pooled, it's becoming more shared, and it's becoming more social. This also needs all of us also to look at work contracts. So probably we'll have more short-term value-based contracts. So appointment letters, employment contracts are things that we need to look at as the new generation comes in. The next slide is very interesting, and I picked it from a company called the Incentives Research Foundation, and this was done in 2015. And this is really very interesting. And the circles or the bubbles that you see, the larger the bubble means there's more importance for that. And for the conversation that we're having right now, you can either look at the green bubble, which is the Generation X, or you can look at the maroon bubble, which is Gen Y or millennials. And what do you see? And I think probably Kushal will talk about a little later. They are looking at more. They're looking at pay, but they're not looking at so much of cash. They're looking at experiences. So they're looking at things like travel and gift cards, not so much about trophies or cups and stuff like that. They are looking at more social media recognition. They want BYOD, which is bring your own device to office. They want to bring your own laptop, probably their iPad, their phones is something that they need to get to office. So they are looking at stuff like this. They're looking at more flex working. They're not so much looking at retirals and finance. So that's a worry because they're not planning for the future. And that's where a lot of us reward professionals could come in and do a bit of financial well-being consulting with them. Tangible benefits, they're not really looking at, but they're looking at interesting work. Service award doesn't have probably any meaning for them. So this is really, really interesting, this research that was done by the IRF in 2015. From looking at managing multi-generational workforce, let's look at how do you manage a global workforce and what are the typical challenges. Typical challenges, you have a large number of people spread across X number of locations. How do you align them to a common goal? Because unless you have common goal, common vision and values, you can't really create a standard approach to recognition and rewards. So what do you do? For example, Vodafone has a common platform where the group's visions and goals are uploaded, and any employee can see that. And thereon you have the country goals and vision. And then people fix their team goals and vision and their own. So there's a method of cascading. Vodafone also uses Yammer, and a lot of organizations use this to communicate about what's happening in different countries, who is achieving what. Yammer is also becoming a platform to talk about yourself and get recognized. And it's the kind of Facebook in a corporate environment. How reward is perceived in different cultures is also different because you have a lot of locally nuanced needs which are very market-based, and that you need to recognize. Yet, organizations like Vodafone have a global framework which is culture agnostic, which talks about the basic principles and guidelines, but then each operating company is allowed to choose the market-based approach to rewards. And you would see, and you can Google up and check, that different countries who have a higher preference for base pay versus retirement benefits. And the countries like US who prefer more retirement benefits than pure base cash. The countries for whom career type of work is more important, which is countries which are more developing countries. and yet you need to be coming across as an organization that is equal and trust. How do you do that? These will all happen through digital forums. So transparent digital forums which offer employees self-service and visibility is going to become very key. More and more, the workforce will work across countries or across states or across districts and will need to collaborate. And the need to do that, you will need to have peer-to-peer recognition. More and more respect for hierarchy and looking at only top-down driven recognition will decrease. In the future, you would have more peer-to-peer respect for functional expertise, respect for friends, and that's where people will look at recognition. From a business perspective, and this is something that we do in our organization, is to really look at what are the hot skills. Is it data warehousing? Is it statistics? Is it big data? Is it digital marketing? Is it enterprise selling? Is it strategic investment finance? What's really changing? What kind of technology is hot in the market? And you will need to respond to pay basis those roles or pay-based skills. And some organizations have skill-based pay, which go off when the skill kind of becomes less hotter in the market and picks up when the skill is in demand. You may also look at levels of grades. So there may be certain grades or levels where you may be kind of playing below the market and you may like to invest in. You may also look at attrition. So where are you losing more people, where you're finding it difficult to attract. And that's where you will nuance your rewards investment based on kind of segmentation that you will create based on critical roles, critical functions, attrition, hot skills, etc. And of course, you will have performance and potential of individuals, which will determine that individual level kind of delivery to the last mile. The next kind of section is around how do you handle rewards when your organization is a startup versus when it's a matured phase and versus when your growth plateaus. And I think Kushal is the best person to talk about startups, but startups primarily attract on equity because a lot of them don't get funding initially and they may not have cash to pay. So their play is more equity, more autonomous work, game-changing work, more direct working and relationship with owners and CEO. Cash and short-term variable pay are not so important because by then you may not have fixed your annual goals. And your goals could really go crazy to 5x, 6x. You don't know. And then when you start getting a bit of fix on it and you start seeing growth, you bring back cash. You bring back short-term variable pay. That's also the phase when equity start kind of realizing for you. Careers really grow fast. So you see it on the slide and you can kind of read it, but you'll see how things change. And as people move, or organizations move into more matured phases, you will find that policies, culture, benefits that are given, things like flexible work options, and Vodafone plays a lot in that space, or we recently started playing a lot in that space. Empowering line managers with budgets to take reward decisions will become very, very key. And then again, as certain businesses start showing plateaued growth or zero growth, and you will be then looking at ROI and return on investment. What's your wage cost to OPEX? What's your wage cost to service revenue? Then cash could become a slightly lesser proportion of play in your game. And you will play with more challenging assignments, increased responsibility, better workplace policies, better benefits, and that's how you will leverage your entire total rewards play. We spoke about multiple generations. We spoke about global workforce, different cultures. We spoke about different business realities, attrition, hot skills, and we spoke about different phases of growth of a business. One interesting aspect which is really developing in the UK and the European countries is the whole thing about activist shareholders. And shareholders could be individuals, shareholders could be pension funds, shareholders could be NGOs, and they are really looking at fairness of pay in terms of gender, in terms of ensuring what's your CEO's pay to the last employee's pay. What is the average salary at a CXO level versus the average salary in the front line? Is it right proportion? Most organizations we see today pay a exponentially high ratio at the senior level versus junior. Is the company doing as well to pay your senior folks so much? So that's a great check, a great governance mechanism. In Europe, there's also this concept about national living wage, which is becoming very, very prominent. They're saying just paying the statutory minimum wage is not enough. You need to look at what's the minimum wage by age. Because as people grow older, their needs increase. Spouse, children, their own parents to take care of, etc. So the concept of living wage, which is minimum wage plus some discretionary spend. So that's an interesting concept evolving. And there's no regulations around it, but different service providers give you living wage indices across different countries. Simplification of executive pay. So a lot of shareholders and public investors, especially listed companies, want to understand how are executives paid between cash, short-term variable, long-term variable, equity in the company, etc., etc. Because some of these aspects can be very, very complex. They need to understand. So how do you simplify it? The last aspect is about building a pension society, which is also our kind of current government's pet project through the National Pension Scheme. Because today, really, people complete 5 years in an organization. Provident fund they withdraw and spend it away somewhere. What do you have left for your retirement? So that's an important thing. So good governance is very key in rewards. And if you have good governance, it will lead to public trust. It will lead to good press, besides, of course, fantastic employee engagement. I've kind of spoken about this. I won't spend much time on this, but it's introducing you to the concept of fair pay. Fair pay is something that is free from discrimination, either age or gender, is market competitive. So you at least have a standard that you pay at kind of 70% of the market, 80% of the market, or 100% of the market. Paying a basic standard living wage, ensuring that everybody shares success in the success of the company through either variable pay or through long-term incentives or through equity ownership. Pay that is simple and pay that is not excessive for the CXO level versus what you pay the front line. So those are interesting concepts of fair pay, largely from a European context, which is emerging and will soon come to India or is already knocking on our doors. And as you deal with so many different things which are changing, demand from your board, from shareholders, from the public, from the market, cost challenges for a startup or for a company which is not growing anymore, external regulations, labor laws, how do you really manage all that? And, till now, I think we are in a phase of looking at benchmarks and looking at correlations and checking what organizations are doing. We need to move to more simulations and forecasting, more predictive and causal modeling. And that's going to become key, because that's the role of big data in HR. That's what's going to help you prepare, to predict where things are moving. What is the voice of the employee? What are they saying? What kind of people are leaving the company? For what reason? What kind of people are joining you, and what kind of people I'm not accepting your offer. So you need to look at not just cost, you need to look at the employee, employer, and the external stakeholders, which is the public, the media, and the shareholders as well. I'll just take a second pause here and now introduce you a bit to Vodafone Business. So as most of you would probably know, Vodafone is a global telecommunications service provider, one of the largest service providers in the world, 400 million customers. We operate in 30 countries and have networks in over 50 more. Presence in Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pac. India is a key part of the group. It's a £5 billion company by revenues, approximately the largest FDI investor in the country, and the second largest MNC by revenue size. 200 million customers in India now, so we're the second largest telecom operator in India. We are pouring into interesting things, Internet of Things, cloud infrastructure, landline business. We're increasing our retail footprint. By sheer retail footprint, we are already the largest retail outlet anywhere in India by surely square feet footprint. 13,000 plus employees, another 15,000 associates. We operate almost out of 200 offices across India. So we have interesting challenges around employee engagement. One, because we're a distributed company, large company, so many employees heading out of 200 plus offices. We're part of a very large global company listed in the London Stock Exchange. So there are certain kind of governance mechanisms that we follow, and we're very, very strict about it. Changing business from very, very B2C kind of business to B2B side of the business really picking up, IT, technology, all picking up. So how do you kind of attract, retain people there? Increasing diversity in our population. So about 3-4 years back, we were kind of 12-13% women in our workforce. Today, it's almost 22-23% of our workforce is women. As I told you, about 50% of our workforce that gets hired every year are millennials. So what do we do? Fundamentally, we have 3 levers to pull, and we spoke about it. We've got cash, we've got HR policies, and we've got benefits. And those are the play that we use to provide total reward solutions to our business and to our employees. Right from market positioning to smartly segmenting employees, looking at performance differentiation, simplifying rewards, communicating to employees, giving them a great experience either through digital platforms or through communication sessions, allowing more flexibility in the workplace in terms of what you choose, how you choose, and how you balance your work life and career. And here I'd like to very briefly talk about 3 flexible work time policies that we have. We have a fantastic sabbatical policy, and all of these policies we launched as recently as April this year. The sabbatical policy is a fantastic pickup where you can take a break from anywhere between 3 months to 18 months and either invest in studies, in a hobby of your choice, in taking care of your kids, taking care of parents, etc. Which is a complete break. The other thing that you could do is you could flex your time. You can decide to come to work for a certain hours in a day and get paid proportionately. The third thing that you could do is out of a 5-week period or a 6-week period, you could take 1 day off and appropriately adjust your work and pay. So you can give 1 day to your family or to your hobby or to your education or something that you are pursuing. And fantastic reception from most employees on this. Okay, I'm coming to a close, but this is, I think, an interesting way that we introduced this year of giving a total reward statement. And it's just not a total reward statement, it's actually an employer value proposition statement. So what's our deal? What do we offer to them? Across cash, short-term variable, equity at certain levels, benefits, Vodafone connectivity facilities, and careers, e-learning opportunities, access to a global career portal. This is just a look of a very colorful, engaging, personalized way of communicating EVP or total rewards. And each employee, all the 13,500 employees, got a personalized employer value proposition statement like this that we got when we did our annual cycle in July this year. So that was about Vodafone. Coming back and summarizing, we did a lot of crystal ball glazing. And here are kind of 8 trends. We always look at 10. I thought it's nice to summarize in 8. The rewards is going through a phase of consumerization or individualization. You will have to look at more and more micro segments of your population. Young age single, middle age double income, people with parents, people with kids, people who are retiring, people who are different life stages, people who are new joinees, people who spend some time in the company, etc. So more and more you will have to approach your employees as consumers because they will also demand to be treated like you treat your consumers. As companies get a lot of pressure on the balance sheet, you will also see more and more pay being at risk. So more and more cash coming through incentive-based compensation. As more and more youngsters enter the workforce and style of working, etc., change, the importance of hierarchy will reduce, and the importance of customers and peers in appraising you in your performance and recognizing you will really improve. So more and more customer and peer feedback will be taken in performance evaluation and recognition. Benefits will become key, and employers will largely use their organization's bargaining power to offer employees certain benefits, and then it will depend on the employees to choose and pick. And employees will ask also, as I said earlier, about exchanging benefits. Healthcare costs will increase, and slowly you will find governments then picking up healthcare costs and not leaving it to corporates. Contingent workers will increase as workplace flexibility increases. So the concept of time, hours, pay, work, all these will change. And then, of course, pay will become more transparent because today you have a Glassdoor, a Paycheck.in, where there is more democratization of pay. And people are openly declaring their pay, sharing their pay. So you will have to see how you manage this change as pay becomes more transparent and democratically available in a sense. And individual accountability will, of course, increase as you provide more and more apps, more digital self-service to choose your pay, your benefits, and aspects of your work. So those are the top 8 trends. I think consumerization, more pay at risk, customers and peers influence, more benefit, healthcare moving to government, contingent workers, pay becoming transparent to a large extent, and a lot of individual accountability in choosing one's pay structure. So that's the thought that I wanted to share. And as we say in Vodafone, we are at our best when you are at yours. I'd like to hand back the mic to People Matters and to Kushal.
Good morning, everyone. This is Kushal, and thanks to People Matters for inviting me for this session. So, and it was a great session by Sanchayan, and I would like to thank him for sharing a lot of insights, new insights. I'm sure we all will be able to, pick up some pointers to implement in our organization. So here I go. So let me introduce you to our startup rewards recognition systems, and what we as startup do for rewarding and engaging the employees. Giving a brief about Gift Xoxo. Gift Xoxo was started in 2012 and we are in the space of creating great experiences in India, and experiences are something which actually give a human touch to people, and it lets people to express themselves, and we have a lot of crazy adventure, wellness, and gourmet experiences all together. Let me talk a little bit about my organization, how we started in 2012, what it was in the initial days. So when we started Xoxo, it was a garage startup, and we hardly had 8 to 10 employees in the beginning when we started. And we used to sit in one table. People were doing multitasking. There was too much of pressure, but we used to work late in the night, and there was a lot of chaos in the overall system. And there was no role definition. There was more of micromanagement, and there was no recognition at that time. But this chaos was the name of the engagement and the recognition in initial days, which I feel. Eventually, when I see this chaos, which was once an engagement term, eventually I realized that it's becoming a mess. Now, people usually talk about the JDs, people talk about job descriptions, they talk about the KRAs, they talk about the hierarchy, they talk about specific roles, designations, etc. So now the recognition has to be evolved, and right from starting when we have 5-6 employees to now we have 200 employees. The recognition also, we felt that it has to evolve, and we have to make it a little interesting and much more clutter free. So this is what we did. Eventually, what we did was we started understanding the employee life cycle, in the rewarding aspect, where we started understanding about the employees when they join the company. So as soon as they join the company, there can be he's onboarded in the company. Then how can we reward them? How can we connect with them on the personal locations? How can they appreciate each other? How can it be integrated with the channel partners? How can they be delighted when they have completed a specific tenure, or they exit, or they retire? And then understanding all the touch points in the employee life cycle. So eventually I realized I can link this particular employee engagement and recognition elements just like a hotel industry. So in a hotel industry, if we go in primitive days, there might be a need which might be created in a hotel industry. I mean, in this particular industry, where people, when they go to other cities, they need some homes, or they need some place to stay. So there might be an evolution of, say, a stay option, a commercialized stay option by people. Eventually, the grade of the hotels grew, say, from 1-star to 2-star to 3-star to 4-star to 5-star to 10-star. So now the quality and the touch points in the overall industry is also growing over a period of time, and this industry is also growing a period of time. On a similar way, I understand that organizations in initial days are in very nascent and in a very immature stage, and then they grow over a period of time. They try to understand the touch points where they want to connect with the employees, and then they grow over a period of time. So we have opted for a human approach in this employee life cycle, where we have tried to introduce various elements which can connect with the employees on the personal level. So let's say when an employee is getting married, so we already are selling couple dining experience, or say record a song type of experience. So we think let's gift them those experiences when the employee is getting married, or say when an employee is becoming a parent, we gift them a mom and me photo shoot. So we are an experience company and we sell photo shoot experiences. So we have packaged various crazy experiences in packaging field, and employees are gifted with mom and me photo shoot, where a photographer goes to the employee's location, does a mom and me photo shoot, and gives away a big wallpaper as a giveaway. Or let's say when an employee is completing a service in the company, how can we delight them differently? So we use a clay sculpture of the employee by itself when the employee completes say 1 year, 2 year, 3 years in the organization. So we have clay sculptures on board who can probably make these clay sculptures for the employees. We use various crazy adventure experiences like say flying a plane or say flying a helicopter or dining on a yacht type of experience for generating more and more referrals, because talent acquisition is a costly affair, and we realize that around 2%, around 1.5% of the total revenues goes to acquire the talent. And we thought, how can we reduce that that amount payout? So we launched various employee referral campaigns where we asked the employees to share more references, and we use experiences to excite them. So we kind of tried understanding all the reward pockets in the employee life cycle, and we tried to give an experiential touch to all those reward pockets, and we tried to make it much more personal, much more vibrant in the company by itself. Then we also, what we did was we launched an Idea Galore type of event in the company, which we organize every quarter. We ask the employees to share any crazy ideas and engagement ideas which we should implement in the company. And one best idea is implemented in the company by itself. So it's purely basis the voting mechanism which we go with. So a couple of ideas which we implemented in our company was, one was we organized a paint day. So once we didn't have cash, and in the early days we never getting the entire building painted was a costly affair. So we reversed the game, and the person came up with an idea of organizing a paint day in the organization. And we asked all the employees to paint their own wall and make their own drawings in the wall. So that became a much more of recognition plus engagement activity for the employees to go. And one of the employees actually shot the entire piece, and it got viral in the in YouTube, and we also got some PR coverage out of it. The second second engagement activity which we implemented in the company was, people were getting too much of stressed out. So we thought so the one person came up with an idea of implementing a music system in the office, and let the people do headbanging in the evening. So we actually implemented that, and every evening after 7 to 8 p.m. We do headbanging session in the office by itself, which reduces a lot of stress. Then we implemented one idea came where the person asked that can we install a punching bag so that people can punch on the bag, and can also reduce stress on the go basis. So we implemented all these ideas, and we felt that we eventually felt that people are liking it, and people are sharing more and more ideas, and we are recognizing people to its best. Sharing one personal example which I did. So I represented India in a very long format of race where I drove from London to Mongolia, which was a 20-country ride. So this was I was the first Indian to do this particular format of race. So there were a couple of recognition approach in this personal experience. Number one, the event organizers, they said that person who comes first is a loser, or the person who comes last is a winner. So fortunately we came 89th, and we were in last 10, and we were in the winners batch. The second was so this was the recognition point. The second point was the team who breaks down the most number of times gets a skull of horse. So the rule of the rally was you have to take a car whose engine size is less than 1000 cc, that is 1 liters and less. And the organizers want us to break down. They want the adventure has to devolve. They want us to break down as many times as possible. And the team who breaks down the most and shares the pictures of the breakdown, they get skull of a horse as the recognition. The third was they said that let's start from the most developed nation of the world to the least developed nation of the world, that is London, which is one of the most developed nation, to Mongolia, which is the least. So this was again an engagement and the recognition driver where we have an element where we are driving from the most developed to the least developed. And the fourth was in case of emergency, don't contact us. You have to figure the way out. So these were a couple of recognition approach towards the overall rally which the organizers used. Eventually, the format of the race went really well, and there were around 600 participants, and we came the 89th number, and we had a good media coverage. So all in all, I would like to say that the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's green where you water it. So people feel that it would be good on the other side of the table, but it's not that. I mean, we all have our perspectives, and it's actually green where you water it. So that's all from my side, and I would be keen to take up questions and take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Kushal, and thank you so much, Sanchayan, for presenting such a nice session. So yes, we have received a lot of questions. So moving to the first one, this is from Nidhi for Sanchayan. Her question is how to balance between culture and ideal strategy while deciding rewards.
Hello. Hi. Interesting question. As I heard it, you said how to balance between culture and business strategy while deciding rewards. So I think, somebody said, and I remember it correctly, it was Peter Drucker who said that culture can eat strategy for breakfast. If you do not have a base fundamental culture that you can build for your organization, no amount of business strategy can help you succeed. Because if you do not have a fundamental culture for your employees, it is very imperative that your employees would not be able to communicate a strong value system to your customer. And today's customers just not look at the value of the product, but what comes surrounding it. So I think it's very important that your rewards and recognition fundamentals are aligned to the fundamental task of building culture. Exactly how much you pay and in what form you pay and what mix you pay could be determined by your business strategy and what kind of industry you're in.
Thank you so much, Sanchayan, for taking this one. Our next question is from Shekhar. This is short-term rewards and bonuses are just as motivating as long-term pay increase and have little impact on company bottom line.
So what's the question here? If you can.
Question is short-term rewards and bonuses are as motivating as long-term pay increases?
So I think it will differ from employee to employee, and different employees are in a different life stage and have different lifestyle needs. At an initial stage when you're just joining the workforce, your initial need is for cash, and some amount of guaranteed cash is what you would need. When you probably move into a phase where you're getting married and your spouse doesn't work, is another phase that you would need cash. And these are very down-to-the-earth worldly needs. However, as you enter into different phases, when you start taking care of your old age parents, when you have kids, when you go on your family day, you would probably have a need for a workplace that takes care of your medical insurance, about things like creche, about flexible work timing, about maternity benefits, etc. So it will really depend on what your lifestyle and life stage needs. There would be stages in employees' careers when they like to buy a big car, for example, or build a house. So those are different needs that will arise at different points in time. And it's imperative that organizations address this individualized approach rather than taking a broad-based one-size-fits-all kind of approach.
Thank you, Sanchayan. Our next question is from Apurva, and this is for Kushal. So she's asking, how do we decide on ROI of any new recognition idea an organization wish to introduce?
Yeah. So Apurva, so the ROI can be defined by multiple parameters. So whenever you do an activity, the ROI can be judged qualitatively and quantitatively. And when you have launched an activity, there are many matured systems which are available to collect the feedback and collect qualitative analysis from about the activity by itself. And then you can gauge a particular activity basis the feedback and the analysis which you get, and then you can see the ROI which has been impacted. So consider for an example, we came up with an interesting idea where we implement recognition tools in various companies. So we ask all the employees to share how are you feeling today. So with a couple of smiley faces. So let's say angry or good, awesome or frustrated. So a couple of smiley faces. Now, as soon as the person logs into, say, the email or say this recognition portal, and they say that, okay, I'm frustrated, and over a period of time, you're able to capture those mood of the people. Eventually, you can easily develop some sort of analytics around using that phases, and you can say that if the guy is too much frustrated, let's say 20 days in a month, then there is a high level of attrition. I mean, there can be a sense of attrition which can happen with that employee. So there are many mature tools which are available to quantify an ROI for a particular activity, and you have to make it very simple for people to use, and I'm sure it will help. It will be helpful.
Thank you, Kushal. So our next question is for Sanchayan, and this is from Shekhar. Question is, how rewards and recognition can be used to create engaged employees?
I think I kind of broadly covered it during my presentation. I think nobody will really want to work in an organization that doesn't pay right, that doesn't pay competitively, that doesn't recognize its employees. It's very simple and easy. You need to look at yourself and understand, would you like to work in an organization that doesn't pay competitively, is not fair in delivering rewards, doesn't have relevant recognition programs? So I think you ask the question yourself and you have the answer.
Yes. Thank you, Sanchayan, and thank you so much, both of you, for answering these questions. And we have a lot more questions for you. So if it is fine with you, we can share these questions with you over an email. And would you be able to answer that?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, we can do that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So with this question answer session, we are going to wrap up today's webinar, and we once again thank our partner for today's session, Gift Xoxo, and a very, very special thanks to our speakers, Sanchayan and Kushal, for presenting this session and sharing a lot of value with this morning. And I would like to thank everybody in webinar audience for taking out your time and joining us in this webinar learning. We'll come back to you with many more such sessions. So stay tuned. This concludes today's webcast. Thank you and have a good day ahead.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
And
everybody.
thank you to
Thank you.
People Matters and to Kushal.
Thanks, Achan. Thank you. Thanks, People Matters.
Thank you.